Namaskar, I'm Shahane and I'm here today with the well-renowned author Sathya Saran, who has been associated with Femina for very many years. She's been an editor of Femina for 12 long years, and she's transformed Femina from being a magazine for the woman next door to an aspirational magazine for the young Indian girl. She's also written a collection of short stories called The Dark Side and has many critically acclaimed biographies to her credit. Biographies of Guru Dutt, seen from the eyes of Abrar Alvi, a biography of Jagjit Singh, of his times in music, of S.T. Burman, and also of Hariprasad Chaurasia, called Breath of Gold. And today we are here with Sathya to talk about her book, Being Ritu, the unforgettable story of Ritu Nanda, which is here, right here. Welcome Sathya, welcome to Metaphor, the Lucknow Lit Fest. I want to know, have you ever met Ritu Nanda?
Unfortunately, the book was assigned to me soon after her passing away. It was like a tribute.
So it was a family who...
yes, it was the daughter and the son who decided that they wanted to hold her memories close.
Yeah.
And they asked me if I would do the book.
Okay, so how has the journey been? How is it, to write about many books that you have written, many biographies that you have written are of people who are no longer with us today.
Yes.
And yet you've written a book on Hariprasad ji also, who is here.
That was different. That was difficult.
Exactly. Was it more difficult? And
In a way, you have to chase Hariprasad. And he's like it's like catching a beam in your hand, because he's here today in Toronto, tomorrow, and Benares the day after.
Oh my.
But they can't run away.
Yeah, they can't run away, but they must have been very difficult to pinpoint too, because I think Ritu Nanda, everyone might know, she is Raj Kapoor's daughter, and she's married into the illustrious Nanda family, and she went on to have her own industry called Niki Tasha, which I think all 80s kids knew about and grew up with on television. One of the first advertisers on television, I think. So she's had her own trajectory, which is very different from the one would expect from a person coming from a film family who's married into an industrial family. And it's a very, very endearing book about such a lovely person. And
very easy for me.
How did you pinpoint all these people? Because all of them are celebrities. Everybody associated with her, who you had to interview, are celebrities in their own right.
Well, I must say that I owe a lot to her daughter Natasha. She helped me. She called. I mean, you call Randhir, he turns up. I mean, when the niece calls, he turns up. And I met him. I met her aunt Rima. It was much easier because she was the intermediary and she was very keen. She was so enthusiastic. I mean, and she had her whole team helping me. I had calls to America, I had numbers given of doctors who had treated her here, doctors who had treated her in Delhi, doctors who had treated her in America. So it was all laid out for me. I didn't have to run.
Okay, and how long did the process take for you?
It took me a year.
A year?
After starting.
I had heard an interview of yours on the Jagjit Singh book. And you said you wrote it in 20 days.
Yes, because somebody was running away. I was going on a trek.
You were going to the Himalayas.
I said, if I don't come back, I don't want a half-written book.
Exactly. So I was wondering whether this also.
No, writing didn't take long, but waiting for the interviews, getting them to come on board, collecting, and I think we did about 80 people.
Right,
There's a lot of
there are a lot of interviews, a lot of people, and I think that's exactly why you get a very, very good impression of her life. In fact, after I finished reading the book, I almost felt as if I knew her very well.
Right, I felt that. I felt that short of seeing her. And there are so many pictures of her. She loved being shot. Yes, lovely, and her brother used to say, you're like President Nixon, you can't get up or sit down without taking a photograph.
She was the selfie queen before selfies came into being, I think. But, so it took about a year, and what is your process of writing? Like, do you approach every book in a different way, depending on the topic of the book?
Yes, of course. Like, this is a straight biography, and because it's based entirely on interviews, I had to find a way that it didn't sound like a journalistic article.
That's right,
And I had to make it feel like a book and not say he said, she said, he said, and then it didn't have to be Aarti Utar now either. So it had to be a real flesh and blood person I was presenting. So that was one hurdle that I had to cross. And I hope I did it properly.
You did.
But now when you look at somebody like the book on S.D. Burman, for example, it's very different because there was already a book on him. There was another one coming up. I was told that so the book, and Win said we don't want to do your book because there's one already in the oven, so to say. So I had to find a new way to write it, and that is why I took a completely different route. Very cinematic, very many voices speaking, including his own voice.
Right.
So I think each book deserves complete attention and treatment.
So you do one book at a time? You write one book at a time?
I don't take on more than that.
And how do you approach writing? Are you one of those very disciplined writers? Like I read a book which Kurosawa has written about his process of writing, and he says that writing is something that should be done every single day, and it is it's a discipline, and you just have to sit in front of now the computer, but earlier just a notepad, and sit there even if you have nothing in your
A blank page.
a blank page.
If you look at a blank page long enough, something will come.
Exactly. So, what kind of are you more a freelance writer or are you a disciplined writer?
No, I think the discipline came in because I used to write my column.
That's
First as a fortnightly and then as a weekly in
My
DNA. And it was like, tomorrow ma'am, we are going to press, and nothing has happened here. And it's blank as the page. And then I think that discipline came in, that you didn't wait for inspiration to descend on you, and you started, your mind is always working.
Yes.
I mean, you're a filmmaker, you know that you're always looking for subjects, looking at angles, looking at colors.
And observing, listening.
Right. So something or the other. Now I write a column for the New Indian Express, and the moment one is over, it's like, people asking mothers-in-law, say, पहला बच्चा हो गया, दूसरा बच्चा कब? It's like that. This is over. Now the next fortnight you have to ask me. So I think that the discipline is there, but I write in spurts.
Right.
The mood, the feeling has to be from here.
Yeah.
It's not from here that I have to sit down and write. It has to
Right.
come naturally. The moment I feel something is not flowing naturally, I'm using cliches, I'm jumping into phrases, I let go.
Yeah. In being Ritu, what was the most compelling part of her story that actually touched you the most?
I know, I was completely surprised that someone like her from such a illustrious family, married into an equally illustrious family, could be so humble and so caring. There are stories of her, Shweta Bachchan, her daughter-in-law, says that my hearing is not being happy. Anyway, but she says that when the winter comes, they just get into a car, and she would have blankets in the backseat, and she would find poor people on the street. She would just keep distributing the blankets. How many people with money do that?
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
or the fact that wherever she was, she's in Sloan Kettering fighting her cancers, but she never forgot a single word.
Wow.
Never. She would call up and she would talk to them. She would sing to them happy birthday.
I know.
She
Very
would
touching.
send gifts. I mean, so
Yeah.
much heart.
No, when I read it also, the thing that stayed with me most was the grace. And we see so little of that in the world today.
Right.
And I mean, people like her don't need to be graceful.
Oh,
people
well, I think they
in the sense that, yes, spiritually they need to be graceful. But I'm saying that very often we see people of privilege behave so badly. Because they can get away with it.
Yes.
Who can say anything to them?
Yeah.
But the opposite is what actually touched me, and it works.
And in the beginning, Nitin says that she was so shy
yeah,
that
exactly.
she wouldn't even look up. I mean, during her engagement, she never looked at the guy. Can
Right.
you imagine in today's world, today so brash.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
ask questions.
You're right, yeah.
But
Not only that, what surprised me from a girl who literally didn't look up at her engagement and being a very obedient and very, very committed wife, mother, even in an egalitarian household, there are things which are very patriarchal. And her stand that she took against that was something which was so touching.
yeah, because that's what Nitasha told. I mean, actually, Nikhil told me this. Her son told me this. She said, my mother was very, very, very quiet. She never took panga with anybody. The Kapoor clan would be around her, creating merry hell, everybody fighting with everybody else, shouting, screaming, arguing,
Very
Bollywood
boisterous.
say, boisterous. And she would sit there quietly, not take sides.
That's
They would ask her, they would provoke her, she would sit quietly, but when she did come up with a comment, everyone would shut up and listen.
Right.
So that was amazing.
Yeah.
But she says, but when it came to this particular issue, she refused, she just dug her heels in and refused to back.
That
She said,
really
no,
spoke to
for me everyone's equal.
Yes.
And you cannot discriminate.
Wow, fabulous. I hope that a lot of people read this book because, generally what happens is that you don't expect people from privileged backgrounds to have huge struggle stories. Their struggle is very different from the struggle of a middle class woman or a lower middle class woman whose every day seems to be a struggle. And yet, after reading Being Ritu, one realizes how much one has to struggle in one's own way, whether, against a mindset, against what you're expected to do, what you want to do, against even physical
No, something simple like being a Bombay girl or a Delhi girl.
You're right.
Huh?
Yeah, it was like really.
It was something else because you lived in Bombay all your life, you're used to one ethos and you're thrown straight and you're 19 years old.
Yeah.
And you're thrown into that society which is very, very different. I've had colleagues who came from Delhi and who couldn't cope with Bombay and vice versa, who
That's
transferred there.
Yeah.
She just managed.
Yeah.
She just adapted. She was like some, like a chameleon.
Yeah.
She just decided, okay, this is my life, I'll make the most of it.
Yeah. That's true. Making the most of whatever is offered.
Whatever is offered.
Is really quite a trait. Tell me, what is the kind of takeaway you would like the readers of Being Ritu to have?
I think the takeaway is that if you want to make your life worthwhile, you have to work at it. And you have to work at it with grace, which is, as you said, a very important aspect. You need to work at it with dedication and detail. I mean, the stories about her attention for detail.
It's that Alvi story really blew my mind. Because usually women are the ones who are considered less technically savvy, and especially a person like her who is not educated in that field in any way. She was not even part of an industrial family. So for her to kind of know about Alvi before anybody else, at that age and come out with Niki Tasha, which was something that changed Indian kitchens.
Yeah, and the story that how it came about is so cute. She said that she liked to cook once in a while. She's cooking. and the gas finishes.
Right.
And she says, "Arey Papa, if we had an oven, how fantastic it would be."
Absolutely.
From there, the whole revolution, the kitchens of India changed.
I tell you, Sathya, my Masi had the first Niki Tasha kitchenette in the area.
Oh.
And it was a talking point for everybody. In fact, people came to our house to see how it looked and how it worked, and it was so beautiful and classy, the design of it. So that had the stamp of Ritu Nanda all over it.
Right, and there are, if you go into the net today,
Yes.
there are about 20 imitators. They use the brand for other things. For irons and for kettles.
Right.
But the brand name is little spelling changes and whatnot.
Yeah, because it was so catchy, na, Niki Tasha.
It's named after the children.
That's right. Wonderful. But after reading the book, because I think the whole process of writing, the creative process, is complete only after the readers read it and react to it and respond to it.
Yes.
So have you had some reactions to it that were very striking or very unconventional, something that you hadn't thought of?
It hasn't been read that extensively yet because it still has to reach the market.
Right.
But yes, some copies are out already. But I think what really made I was very worried because this is something the children have asked me to write.
Exactly.
And I don't want to disappoint, fall short.
Right.
Because they know their mother.
Yes.
How so I think for me, the biggest joy was when Natasha told me you brought her alive. And her friend Kupi.
Yes.
Her friend Kupi called me day before yesterday and she says, "It's so Ritu, your book." So I said, "Thank God." Because you're all my biggest critics.
Right.
You were.
Yeah. No, actually, when I read it, as I said, I thought that I knew her all my life. And her passing in the book comes as a very personal shock.
And it's so sad
it's
because
so
she fought so hard.
Yeah, she did.
I mean, to fight two cancers over so many years.
No, I know my mom, experienced cancer and is in remission, so I know what a huge struggle it is, and especially for a woman who's so full of life to be bound by this.
And to sit there and work on a book.
Yes, work on a book. Imagine and work on parties and work on bringing everybody together. Even there, it's just amazing, outstanding, really.
And then that whole story about how Rishi is in the same
in the same
apartment and how different they are.
I've read his autobiography also.
Yes.
And I know it. I mean, the flavor of the two
very different.
is very different. The siblings. I mean, coming from one family and yet they're like talking.
They are very close. They were very, very close.
The entire family, I think, is a very close-knit family. You get that feeling, of being truly special, not because of what they have achieved, which is just tremendous, but I think because of this bond and this whole, merging of the traditional and the modern.
Right.
It is very, very rare. I mean, I've seen a lot of industrial families, especially, who are extremely, well off and everything, and yet the mindset is somewhere in the 18th century.
Oh, I did a talk long ago when I was in Femina, what is it called, Tricky Ladies Wing or something. And industry wives started speaking up, saying, "How do we get out of this bind we are in?" See, I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was totally shocked. I said, "You?"
Exactly. Exactly. Show the way. That's true.
But she broke through, and she broke through because of a very simple thing which I think every woman faces in life, that at some point you stop communicating with your husband.
Yes.
If you're a housewife.
Yes.
Because he's too busy growing and
Yeah.
you are where you are.
Right. Yeah.
And she said, "I have to break this. I have to have a conversation over the breakfast table."
Yes. Wonderful. And she also encouraged her younger sister, Himaji, to kind of do
To
something
say that
with her
I
life.
laid out, but I did
Which is
some.
such a disarming thing to say. It's a wonderful read, really, and very lucid. I must say, the first part of it actually, when I was reading it, I felt I was watching a film.
because
it's
lovely.
creating
Yeah.
that entire era and something that you've only thought of or read, and suddenly this person who's actually lived it, you get an idea of that life.
See, a lot of. I mean, I think we are contemporaries, Ritu and I.
Right.
So a lot of what she was doing was something similar to what I was doing,
Right.
but in my school days or whatever. But this is a filmy family.
Exactly.
So it's
Yeah, it is.
and the names that keep walking in and out.
I know. And how do you maintain this balance? Because everybody, as you just said, are known to everybody. And how do you keep this balance of telling only so much and keeping so much out?
Yeah. And that was not very easy because you see there was also this what is it called, anxiety on Nitasha's part because they are all close as a family and she didn't want anyone to be left.
Right.
So she would ring up and say, Sathya ji, did you call so and so? Did you ring up? Did you get the interview? She's a good friend of mine. She's my mother's friend. She's my mother's friend's friend.
Right.
So it was like, how many people do I interview? And
Yes.
some of them said the same things.
Yeah. That's true.
Because people don't remember.
Yeah. People don't remember. And also the मोटा जो एक्सपीरियंस होता है किसी
वो तो उतना ही है कि हमने उसके घर पे गए हम बड़ा अच्छा खाना खाए हम the table was so beautifully set, she gave us Lebanese food. I mean, it's good, but it's not Ritu alone. I mean, that doesn't make Ritu.
Yeah.
So it was tough.
And I also find as a writer and a reader, the toughest thing is that a life led so well and a long life, and then suddenly you have to make it concise and make it, So how do you go about it? Do you plot certain high points and then work around that, or how do you do that?
No, I think when I make notes, the high points automatically speak up. You drop the others.
That's right. Yeah.
You drop the others, and finally it is her life we have to show. So whatever is important in that, the turning points, and there are so many.
There are so many. Yeah.
I mean, she's like a phoenix.
Totally.
You close one door, she goes, flies out of another.
Yeah. And she makes the door.
Yeah.
And then she opens it and flies out.
Well said. Yes.
How has being Ritu been different from the other biographies? And is this the first female you have written?
Yes, surprisingly.
Surprisingly.
Considering I had spent 26 years writing about women. Yes, it is the first woman, and I think empathy was much easier for me. Understanding her way of thinking, her way of reacting was much simpler, much easier. Also, the feeling of knowing her came easier.
Yes.
With the others, you have to
Right.
work at it. I mean, you're still watching like an observer, for a while. But here, it wasn't like that. It was like, I'm writing about someone I know.
Yeah, that really comes across. I mean, even I am not maybe perhaps of the same age group, but there are so many
No, you are.
things.
You're one generation below.
And yet, there are so many things that are still common. And there are so many things that inspire you to be.
I thought her life was inspiration.
It is an inspiration, and there's a lot to learn, and there's a lot to learn about her as a human being, as you said, that not all things, you don't have to fight for everything with a sword in one.
Yeah, and that was something that we used to say when I was in Tamil Nadu. That was the mantra, which is what worked for me.
Right.
It was that if you want to be a feminist in the Indian sense of the word, it means you find a way to realize your potential. But it doesn't mean you take takkar with your mother-in-law, your husband. Men are not evil creatures. You need them. You need their company, you need their well-wishes, you need their support. So that is probably what worked for me. That she used the same.
Right.
She never went head-on into conflict.
Right.
And when something went wrong, as as it went wrong with Niki Tasha. She didn't create a fuss.
No, she didn't.
She didn't.
It was so,
She just stepped back and said,
That's
there's
so
only one
cute.
captain. Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, I know I fought when Femina was taken away from me.
Yes.
I fought. I said, this is
Right.
my baby.
Right.
But she didn't fight.
That's true. You've written so many books about personalities related to film, personalities related to music. Have you always had a love for films and music?
Yeah. I mean, when we were kids in Guwahati, then we would go driving in the car even to school.
Right.
So I would be at one window, my sister would be at another window, and we'd sing all the way through.
Oh.
I mean, we knew all the songs.
With Bharti?
Vivid Bharti, Binaka Geetmala, we knew every song, we knew the lyrics, the tunes,
Right.
and we would sing.
Okay.
And my father would joke about, doesn't matter, there is a stereo radio in my car. I still have that habit, I still sing. In fact, the SD Burman book is dedicated to my sister saying we sang all these songs.
How lovely. Yeah, and also same goes with films.
Yes.
So to marry both must have been quite
That's fun.
interesting.
Yeah. No, it's a world that I when I first started my journalism thing, I was supposed to work with Star and Style.
Is it?
Yes, I was with Gulshan. He being asked me to go and interview Parveen Babi. So I went to a lady. I was in Nagpur those days, so I came and sat outside her studio and I tried to interview her, and I got an interview, and it was so tepid.
Really?
I mean, I asked her. She was in the height of her
career.
Her affair with Kabir Bedi, and I can't ask personal questions. So at the last, after asking her a lot of things, I said, they say something about Kabir Bedi. Oh, we're friends. So I was very happy. I said, thank God. And I left. So when I wrote my story, Gulshan Evening said, you were never going to make a film journalist. You don't have a soul in your body.
Your journalism wasn't yellow enough.
No. She said, no, she said, I'm a friend. Look at the evidence against that statement. I said, when she told me this, I believed it. So films have always been very close to my heart. Yes.
So were you a journalist before a writer or a writer before a journalist?
I was a writer first. I used to write all through my college, all through my Hindi classes, because I didn't quite grasp the subject as a literary medium. I used to write murder stories.
Wow! I'm impressed. I love murder
mysteries. It was very a macabre one, but I wrote it. And then I've always been writing, but nothing really got published.
Yeah.
And then I think when I wrote my first article in the Baat.
So which is more attractive to you as a writer? Is it fiction or is it biography? Fiction.
Fiction, biography is easy. The life is the story is already there.
Right. Yes.
You have to work hard at it.
Yes, that's true.
You have to take fact and make it fiction.
But even in biographies, I'm sure it's difficult to please the people who are significant others of the person.
No, but one doesn't try to do that. One is not writing a biography to please anybody. One is writing a biography to present that person with good points, bad points. See, up till now, most of my biographies have been about the career. To show how a particular genius flowered.
Right. Correct.
So even if you look at Hariji's biography, it is about his struggles, how he brought the flute into mainstream music, classical music, how he struggled to learn from Annapurna Devi, how he became a force, in world music,
right?
To have be director of a chair in Rotterdam.
Absolutely.
Of the world music section is not easy. It doesn't happen to everyone.
Right.
So it's about the career. Whatever is important as a contribution by family, friends, hurdles, goes in. If you're not happy, sorry.
So what have you planned next now?
Oh, I've just finished another book. But
she's prolific, I tell you.
it's confidential.
Okay. And what about fiction? We want to read more fiction from you.
I write fiction. In fact, there is a book of mine coming with old and new stories. It should come out next year. But you know what I do to write fiction? I hold something called Unfestival.
Oh.
Yeah, you know, I got sick of these literary festivals. Sorry, I know I'm talking about. Where you never meet other authors.
Ah, that's right.
Yeah,
You're
just
right.
you go, you do your bit and you're basically.
I think more film festivals are also becoming like that. You hardly meet
So
your...
there's no interaction.
That's true.
So I started something like this, which is like a writer's residency. We choose authors, not necessarily all of them are book authors. They could be journalists, they could be filmmakers,
Right.
you know, but they are creative people. They sit down, we sit and work, we write every day in our rooms, and in the evening we share each other's work.
Oh, how lovely.
Yeah.
That's really
You want to
nice.
come on board? Come
Yeah,
on
why
board.
not? I
January.
love that. I see I've got an invitation already. Yay.
I'm doing it in January. You're welcome.
Oh, wow. Great, that's great.
Yes.
And I just want to thank you for being part of this session at the Metaphor. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. We have a very special connect, which not many people know, but my mother used to work in Femina, and I've met Sathya when I must have been in my teens, I guess. She's seen me literally from that
That's
time.
one of my all-time favorite people. I literally read her. She's amazing. She's someone else.
So I'm really very happy to have
Do
her.
you sing?
I do sing. What
When
do
you
you
sing Mila Hai Kisi Ka Jhumka, because this keeps falling apart.
Or Jhumka Mila Re.
Jhumka Mila Hai. I'm going to put it back.
Rather than Gira Re.
This is Gira only, no?
This
So
is Gira, but
yeah.
will be Gira. Wonderful talking to you,
circumstance.
Sathya. Yeah.
No, thank you so much. Thank you.
Pleasure, and I hope a lot of people get to read this Big Ritu, because it's such a wonderful book about such an endearing
lovely
person.
photographs.
Lovely photographs.
Lovely photographs from their personal life.
Lovely photographs, yeah.
The 60 of them they managed to cram in.
Right, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Metaphor.